Hi, welcome back to Plant Boy. If you're new here, my name is Cade. Good seeing you today. I hope you're having a good week. Today we are going to talk about toxicity and houseplants, specifically plants that are safe for our furry friends, that being cats or dogs, as well as our children if we have any. So it's important for you to know that certain houseplants do have toxic properties. Specifically, plants like the peace lily that you may be familiar with, or the Dieffenbachia, also known as the dumb cane, are two very notable toxic plants that actually have a toxic sap, and if touched on the mouth or any kind of mucous membrane, it can cause swelling and irritation and things like that. So you obviously want to make sure that if you have a child that may be getting into any of your houseplants, or even a cat or a dog that could be getting into houseplants as well, that you have non-toxic houseplants within your space, so if something were to happen, it is not going to be detrimental to the child or pet's life. Note that while these options that we are going to talk about are technically non-toxic, they can still be irritating. A lot of these plants have a lot of fibrous material that is not easily digested, so if a dog were to eat a whole plant of one of these ones mentioned, they're probably going to have GI problems, but they will be fine. You know, it won't be detrimental to their health or anything like that. And as always, do your own research. There are many good websites out there that talk about plant toxicity, and if you have specific plants that you want to look up to understand whether they are toxic or not, definitely do your own research and be proactive if this is something that you need to be aware of. So one non-toxic plant that I have in front of me here is the spider plant. Don't judge me, but this is a plant that I'm rehabbing. It's been a little temperamental for me. But spider plants are relatively good low maintenance options. They do really well in bright indirect light, no direct light needed. They're very prolific in terms of their reproduction. You can get a lot of plants from one, and they like to stay consistently moist as well. These, from my understanding, are actually mildly hallucinogenic for cats. So if you want kind of like a fresh catnip for your cat, check out the spider plant. Another plant that is non-toxic that I actually don't have here is the African violet. These are really pretty blooming houseplants that you can actually keep in your space, and granted that you provide them with the correct conditions, they will actually bloom year-round, and they are indeed non-toxic to cats, dogs, and children. Another one that is going to be non-toxic, and this one is very fibrous, as I had mentioned, so you know, if a dog or a child eats a lot of this plant, it's not going to be pretty in terms of the GI problems that they may experience from that excess fiber, but it's not toxic or anything like that. That's going to be the wax plant, or the Hoya Carnosa. I have a variegated form of this plant back here. Hoyas are very popular houseplants because they are a little bit more on the succulent side. They do require quite a bit of light and quite a bit of humidity, but they are relatively low maintenance in terms of their watering schedule and things like that. Certain palms are also non-toxic to pets. Palms are a little bit more intensive in terms of their care. Very often they require quite a bit of direct light, specifically the Parlor Palm, and this doesn't apply to all palms as far as I'm aware, so again, make sure you're doing your specific research. But palms are a little bit more finicky to care for, but certain ones are non-toxic, and they do really liven up a space and provide some really cool texture. The next houseplant is going to be a Boston fern, and other varieties of ferns. Some are toxic, some are not. However, the Boston fern or the sword fern is non-toxic as well. I do have one of those, but it is gigantic, and I'm not even going to try to bring it over here so you can see it. But these are relatively good indoor houseplants, provided that you can keep them on the moist side always and have a good amount of humidity and a decent amount of light as well. They can be a little bit messy if you're letting them dry out too much. They can drop old leaves, they can drop spores and things like that. So not the best plant if you are a clean freak, but they are very rewarding to grow and relatively easy. Another non-toxic houseplant that you can grow is the Peperomia obtusifolia, which is also known as the baby rubber tree. Rubber trees are toxic, however, this is not even related to the rubber tree. It's not in the same genus. but they do look like the smaller form of the rubber tree. Not sure if you can see, but I have a rubber tree back there, but these are non-toxic. and they are more on the succulent side, so they like a lot of indirect light, really no direct light, and they are relatively forgiving in terms of how frequently you water them. You can let them dry out pretty substantially and they will do just fine. Another non-toxic houseplant option that you can look into is the baby tears plant. Not sure the taxonomical name of this plant, but I will have it show up here. This is a plant that is very intensive in terms of the amount of water that it requires. If you're someone that prefers succulent type plants because you don't have to monitor the watering situation nearly as much, I wouldn't recommend the baby's tears, but if you have the time and the dedication to upkeep with consistent watering, the baby tears is a really cute plant and it is not toxic as well. Certain marantas or prayer plants are non-toxic as well. I don't have any prayer plants to show you. I have Calatheas. Prayer plants are very interesting. They have really cool textures on their foliage and really interesting designs. They are relatively good houseplants, but they are a little bit more finicky in terms of care. A really resilient, low maintenance houseplant that is not toxic is going to be the cast iron plant, or the Aspidistra elator, I believe is the pronunciation. I do have a care guide on many of the houseplants that I've mentioned here, as well as the cast iron plant. Very, very easy to grow, very forgiving, doesn't require a whole lot of humidity, can dry out relatively substantially, and does okay in medium to low light. And it is non-toxic as well. The last plant that I'm going to mention here is the Haworthia. This kind of looks like an aloe plant, except it's like kind of the baby version of that. I believe it's called like the zebra aloe is what some people refer to it as. I'll show a picture of it here. These guys are really cute and make, you know, like interesting little plants if you have a smaller space that you want to fill out and you are concerned about toxicity as well. So that is my small list of non-toxic houseplants. Again, make sure that you are doing your research. You need to make sure that you are looking up specific plants that you have in your space if you are concerned or know that you should be concerned about a pet or a child getting into any of these plants and potentially harming themselves. This isn't something that's very frequently talked about, but it is definitely very important to understand and consider whenever you are picking out a houseplant. Fortunately for me, the dog that I have does not get into anything. It's very low maintenance, which is great. I don't know what I'd do with all my plants if he, you know, got into things like that. And I don't have any kids either, so I don't have to worry about that. But yes, everyone, let me know if you have any questions or if you have, you know, specific plants that you found are really nice house plants that are also non-toxic. Please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And happy Thursday if you're watching it the day I post it. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.